Hey there. Sam back with you here, Tuesday, December 26th. Had another member interested in an update on Ethereum to the dollar on Coinbase or GDAX. Same difference, same chart. TradingView just calls it Coinbase, but we know it's traded on GDAX. So now I've got up here. This is the 4 hour, so we can get a sense of perspective here, and this is important to do, especially when we have moves like this, that you get some sense of context of where you are. So you can see I've got the median line on, and I've got the modified shift, and you can tell that pretty quickly here, because with the modified shift we go up 50% in price and we go over 50% in time. So we can see that here, and it creates essentially a channel. So if I were I often try and remind people of this, when you're looking at a modified shift, it's very close to a channel. See that, right? So you could, if you don't, if you're, I mean, the difference is, so you're working off of the center line, much like you would the median line, right? Some people, just comfortable with the channel, so they're identical. Where you have a difference here now, of course, we have the original, or we have the shift where we only go up 50% in price. Do you see that difference there? All right, so now we're only up 50% in price. We're not over 50% in time. But the modified shift seems to catch this quite nicely. So we go back to that. Now take note here, I'm in log scale because of the size of this, so we can see the subdivision better here. So if I go back to log, I think that can just help you get more clarity on where we are. So looking at this, right, and under the assumption here that we have a 1, 2, and this makes sense as potentially a big 3, if I recall here. So from the length of my 1 to my 2, now I've got to stretch this over so you can see it here. So that's my 2, trying to get it right on there. So this is the 2618, which would be an extreme for the 3. We don't quite make it. I mean, we're very close, within 20 bucks. We don't make it, but look how we catch the upper parallel to the median line on the modified shift. I mean, to the tick, just remarkable. So we know, certainly we have technical trading here. So on the assumption, right, if you will, that this is now our third, that we have our 1, 2, 3 in. And I also, if I recall, this was technical. So we had here, we went for our 1, 2, knowing a 2 can go anywhere from the 50 to the 786. We get right between the two, and then here's our negative 1618, which is truly an extreme for an algo pull, and we get that little hot box up there between the negative 1618 and the 2618, and we go right up, and we just happen to catch the corner of the upper parallel to the tick. So interesting, very technical. So let me pull some of that off. It's, again, keeping it simple. So much like Bitcoin, on the assumption that we're working in a 1, 2, 3, so the first thing we're going to do is look for a relationship between our 2 wave. We're going to go up to the top of our 3, and lo and behold. So what do we see there? So to the tick, we go right to the 618. All right, so very technical trading. Here's our 1 wave high. We don't even challenge it. We come right to the to the 618. And just tick it, right? It's like algo 101, right? That's if they're not going to buy and hold at the 50, they're going to keep buying down to the 618. They flip at the 65. So that's about as good as it gets. So I know it's hard to buy that. It's hard to buy it when it's coming down like that. But you just, again, it comes from years of doing this. You have to know, if you're going to get a reaction there. The advantage of this is that the reaction is so extreme. So even though it's scary to pull the trigger there, when you get the you can reduce your risk so quickly because of how violently it moved off of that. So, just something to keep in mind. Right? We wait for these retracements. When the market is doing this, we're waiting for the retracement, and then it comes, and often it's, you can be too fearful to take the trade, but that's what you were waiting for. And unfortunately, right, if you didn't catch that, you haven't had a very shallow 2 to look for that second opportunity, which, often I'll suggest is I mean, if you can't get comfortable here, you got to wait for the 2, and so maybe we're still yet to see that. But this is, we tick it here at 462, and now we're up at 747. It could be a long wait. So that was an incredibly technical trade, just a beautiful trade. I didn't take it. I was trading Bitcoin during that little correction, but I know I had some members that did. So again, it's it's not rocket science. It's you don't even need the Elliott count there. Just major pivot to major pivot, right? There's the 618. The fact that you can put the median lines onto that, yeah, that's going to help. I mean, we can see here how it tapped the median line. It went through, it hovers around it. If we're going to go through it, we come down. Again, it doesn't surprise me here that we go and we stay technical here. So look at the reaction that we're getting. So let's blow this up. Let's go down to the 1 hour and get a look at this and see if there's going to be any opportunity. We're going to need a fairly deep retracement here. So you can see we get an ABC, right? So certainly an extreme in the C wave. So we certainly get that extreme. So it's hard to call that the 1-2 and have it be complete because of the shallow 2 wave here. But we got to measure it up. So let's look at it. Remember, we are in log scale, so this is going to look a little bit different. So we're between that's shallow for a second to be between the 38 and the 50. I would have preferred. I think some of us were looking for this down at the median line here at the 50, but we don't get the reaction. We do get an ABC, and it would appear now that we've gone somewhat. It would appear that we've got an impulse. So we've got an ABC, and then we can pretty easily see we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potentially setting up. So what would that be? Well, again, let's try and give it some context. So if, in fact, on a larger scale, so this is where it gets a little tricky with Ethereum. So if this is our start, if this is our 1, this is our 2, this doesn't make sense as our 3, right? So it's not high enough. So let me change that degree so this will make a little more sense. So if this count is going to hold and play. All right, let's get our C wave down here. If this is going to hold as a 1-2, well, this is definitely not our 3, right? It's not close to being as long as the wave 1. So what it potentially could be, if Ethereum's going to continue on this track, we may have the 1 wave of the 3rd wave, right? Do you see that? So we have the 5-wave subdivision that we'd expect, but that's certainly not high enough to call this a 3rd wave. So we have the potential. So because it's 5 waves, so you might look at that and say, well, Sam, maybe that's an A, B, C, but it can't be because we've got this 5-wave subdivision. So it's impulsive as well, right? So we don't get even a challenge of the 1. So if this is going to hold, right, as our potential roadmap as a 1-2, well, we know the 3. So if you start measuring and say, okay, well, here's my 618. Here's my algo target, right? So we know that's potentially a target here. If this is going to be a 1-2, let me pull this off. So we would start measuring and say, okay, well, if this is my 1 wave, and this shallow 2, the shallow drop here is my 2 wave, well, I've at least got to get to 100% of it up here to know I'm in a 3rd, but more likely we're up here for the 3rd. That's our high probability zone, statistically, where we'd expect to see a 3. So given the size of that move, if this is going to play, well, then if my 3 is up here, then this is just my 1 of my 3. So we'd be tracking it this way. So right now, the primary count, the potential roadmap, is that we're doing something like that. So yet again, let me change that and go down a degree. Okay, so what does that create for us? Potentially now, we've got a 1. Let me put that in green. Okay, so there's a 1. So if this is going to play, this is a 1 wave. Now we're looking for the retracement here into the 2 wave. We're looking, knowing a 2 can go anywhere from the 50 to the 786. Give that some scale. So, again, that looks to me like maybe that's just the A wave. So I got to open this up. Let's take it out of log so we can get a better. Now we go. Okay. So now we're out of log scale. So I've got a very clean 5-wave subdivision here, and we're just waiting for the 2. So with any luck, we get a little bit of a pullback here. So we could now, it doesn't play very well. it's worth drawing it up, but this is awfully steep. Do you see? So even with the modified shift up 50% in price, over 50% in time, we're already outside of the bounds of that. So that looks like it's going to be too steep. Now, yes, we could put the 2 on there. We could put that on and see if we hold it here. But look where my median line is, right? So we're already too far over. So my guess is that we'll have to redraw here if we come back down here and we get another pivot. Then potentially here we redraw it based on those dominant swings. So we'd be looking more like this. So we need to get a pivot down here to work from. We don't have it yet, but potentially you're coming down here, and that would be an original, not modified, playing for our corner pocket trade that we like here between the 50 and the 618, looking for a third, up in those zones where it's likely we're still looking to those high probability zones, statistically speaking. So we know that third is a candidate up here. So if we're going to get there, this is the roadmap that would get us there. If that's a 1-2, if that holds, then here's our 1-2. We're going up for the third, trying to find the third of the third. You see that? So potentially the third of the third. Make sense? Okay, so that's what I see there. So it's a hurry up and wait now, and hopefully, so you set an alarm at the 50. Hopefully we get a little retracement here to give us the opportunity to get in. So you've got good risk reward there. So the ideal buy. So here's the ideal buy here is between the 50 and the 618. So maybe it's a little front run on the 618. Stop under the 786. Targets well up above. So that's what I see there. I think there is opportunity coming, but right now it's just wait for your trade. Okay, guys, I'll stop it there.